When solving quadratic equations, if you can't factor the equation, or it's too difficult to factor, we use the quadratic formula. This is the formula right here. If you've never seen it before, it probably looks fairly intimidating, but it's fairly easy to use. You see the numbers a, b, and c in the formula are the numbers you see in front of the x squared. That's the a. In front of the x is the b, and the -2 is the c. And when you put them into the formula, you see the b goes in here. There's the -5. And then the 5 is squared. 4 times a times c. And then all of this is divided by 2 times the value of a. Once you've got that there, the next thing to do is, if you're using a calculator, just put 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times -2. I like to do that all in one step because it's fairly easy to do, particularly on a calculator. If you're asked for exact answers, these are the exact answers here. If you're asked to give answers to a couple of decimal places, put this in your calculator, -5 plus the root of 41. Make sure you enter that number before you divide by 4. I've had a lot of students ask me why they're getting the wrong answer, and it's because when they do the divided by 4, it's only the number on the end that gets divided by 4, unless you enter that and get an answer and ask it to divide the whole thing by 4. Here's another example. You notice the b this time is a -7. So when you go to put it into the formula, the negative of -7, of course, is just 7. Now, when you put the -7 in here and you square it, be careful the way you enter that on your calculator, because if you just don't put in the brackets and just put -7 squared, it might stay at -49 in your calculator. Actually, what I do is because I know I'm going to square it, I don't even put in the negative. Or you can do it in your head. You can just think of 7 squared as 49. Once again, you've got your two answers, and if you want approximate answers, again, fairly easy to do on your calculator. Now, there are a couple of things that I'd like to point out about this. For example, if you had a fraction in your equation, there's nothing wrong with multiplying everything by 2. It just makes the a, b, and the c easier rather than using a fraction or a decimal. Another thing that might happen, it could be an elaborate thing like this. I multiplied each term by 6, divided the 2 into the 6 here to get 3. Same thing here. 3 into 6 goes twice, times 2 is 4. Multiplied this into the brackets. Now I like my a to be positive, so that's why I moved everything to the right hand side. You could move it over here and then change the signs as well, but it's just with that particular formula, it just seems to me easier if the a is a positive, and you can always make it positive by multiplying through by -1. Two other examples. I want to look at what happens if you've just got two terms. For example, in this one, the b is 0 because there's no x term, which results in a lot of zeros in the formula. There's the -b, there's the b squared. All we're coming up with is this. I reduced the 48 to 16 times 3 so that I could take the square root of 16 out. That allows me to simplify the fraction. I don't use the formula for a question of that type. I usually just, in a case like this, if there's no x, I move the number to the other side. X squared is 4/3. Take the square root of both sides. Now, I probably shouldn't leave it with the root on the bottom, so I do what's called rationalizing the denominator. And I end up with the same answer as I got over here. Another example where there are only two terms is one like this. I used the same numbers as before, but I have an x beside the 4. So this time it's the c value that's 0. And that results in a 0 in here, which means this is just going to be a perfect square because after all it's just -4 squared. Then you take the square root. You get two very simple answers from that. A much simpler way of doing it, rather than using the formula, would be just to factor out the x, and then you've got two answers. Either x is 0 or 3x minus 4 is 0, which results in 4/3. So personally, I wouldn't use the quadratic formula if I only have two terms. I reserve that for ones with 3 terms and ones where I can't factor it easily.